Daily Bible Time. Good morning, it is Dominic Steele, and thanks for joining us Monday morning, the 29th of April. I started my preparation today going back to Jeremiah and thinking I finished Lionel Windsor's Truth Be Told, and I just thought it'd be great to go back to Jeremiah, and then I just thought, you know what, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by the whole project of Isaiah, and I thought if I start going back to Jeremiah right now, I'm going to feel all the next few weeks overwhelmed by Isaiah. And so what I thought I might do, and I've just spent a bit of time reading this morning, is I might read on Isaiah on the bits that are not going to make it into the sermons. And so I just thought I'd start off with Alec Motyer's commentary, The Prophecy of Isaiah, and just read from the introduction and do some work on the introduction to his commentary. He says in this lovely line that it's taken him 30 years to write this big commentary on Isaiah, and he pays tribute to his wife, Beryl. He says, "She stung my conscience by repeated exhortations of remember Ronald Inchley, who was the original author, the original editor of the series, right through her readiness to see the early years of our retirement devoted to the cause of Isaiah. To dedicate my book to her is no more than love would wish and far less than debt requires." And I just thought, oh wow, there's Motyer. He's been working for 30 years on this big book of Isaiah. He starts off on the whole theme in the literature of Isaiah of the messianic hope. And he says the Isaianic literature, the book of Isaiah, is built around three messianic portraits: the king in chapters 1 to 37, the servant in chapters 38 to 55, and the anointed conqueror in chapters 56 to 66. And he shows how each of these portraits is integral to the book, to the section of Isaiah in which it is set. Standing back from the portraits, he discovers the same features in each, indicative of the fact that they are meant to be portraits of the one messianic person. So he sees in each portrait, the 1 to 37 portrait, the 38 to 55 portrait, and in the 56 to 66 portrait, the Messiah revealed as endowed with spirit and word. He sees the concept of righteousness recurring throughout, characteristic of the throne of the king in chapter 9, the nature of his rule in chapter 11. He sees it naturally emphasized that the king is of Davidic descent in chapter 9. It is indeed David in chapter 11 verse 1. It's also true that the covenanting work of the servant is realization of the sure mercies of David in chapter 55. And then he says each of the messianic representations embraces equally Israel and the Gentile world. In each case, the movement is from a central work outwards. The restoration of Zion in chapter 1 merges into the inflooding of the nations in chapter 2. The royal David of chapter 11 rules over a new world in chapter 11 and his harmonized people. And then Alec Motyer says the messianic enigma evidenced in the Old Testament is especially prominent in these three portraits, with their implication of a Messiah who is plainly man but also truly God. The king is born in David's line, chapter 11 verse 1, but he is also the root from which David springs, chapter 11 verse 10, and the mighty God of chapter 9 verse 6. The servant possesses a human ancestry and appearance, chapter 53:2, and the common human experience of rejection, 53:3, the trial of suffering beyond any other in chapter 50 verse 6 and 52:14. But he is also the arm of the Lord himself visibly present in saving action, 53:1. And the arm of the Lord reappears at the beginning of the anointed conqueror sequence in 59:16, as the Lord dons the garment symbolic of his capacity for and commitment to the effectuating of his righteousness and the working of salvation. The sequence, which began with the Lord's arm, ends with the arm of the Lord's conqueror in 63:5. And then Alec Motyer also draws our attention to that in the Servant series there's a contrast reaching its climax in the last two songs. So he says these similarities between the three portrayals of the Messiah and the contrasts must be accounted for in any synthesis: king, servant, and anointed conqueror, making a single picture which each meets the need of the others. Both the king, 9:1-5, the servant, 53:12, and the anointed, well, those two, they're victors, but without the conqueror. Alec Motyer says the similarities and the contrasts between the three figures, king, servant, and anointed conqueror, must be taken into account. He notes that the king and the servant are both victors, but without the conqueror, neither is explained or consummated. The king rules in righteousness over a righteous community in chapter 32, 1-8. But how can he do so until the servant provides righteousness for the Lord's servants in chapter 53? And the conqueror effectuates righteousness and overthrows his enemies in 63. The king rules over the whole world. But how can he do so until the servant opens the way for all and who will to come feast and enjoy the sure mercies of David, and until the conqueror creates a world free of opposition? So king, servant, conqueror, three perspectives on the Messiah in the three different books or sections within the prophecy of Isaiah. Isaiah 1-37, 38-55, and 56-66. Thanks for joining us on Daily Bible Time today. See you tomorrow morning. God bless.